To all the Minnesota Vikings haters, non-believers, doomsayers, this one's for you. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day, every single day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's a little more to every player, more dedication, attention to detail, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for more. Today on the show, we're going to do something a little different. It's going to be the sister episode, kind of the evil twin of the episode we did on Monday. On Monday, I did an episode outlining every reason I had to be optimistic about the Vikings. Not even, I think, comprehensively. I think there probably is more that I didn't mention. But, why I'm hyped on the Vikings. The vast majority of response to that was either, oh no, I'm getting my hopes up, which, fair emotion, or the haters being like, this is way too optimistic. Which, well, that was the point of the exercise. And for you, those who either just want to doomsay, right, who just or just genuinely don't think the Vikings are going to be that good this year, or if you're a Packers or a Bears fan or somebody listening, I know there's a lot of Bears fans that listen to every Locked On Vikings episode, and thank you so much for your Vikings fandom. This is for you, because this is going to be the opposite. This is every concern that I have about the Minnesota Vikings. If the Minnesota Vikings fail this year, and I mean fail, like 6-win season, I guess my take is that something prescient will be in this episode. Something will will predict the reason why. And if it happens for a reason I didn't predict here, I would be surprised. And this is going to be an entirely negative episode. So if you're looking for positivity or like balance, I'm usually much more balanced than this, or I try to be. But if you're looking for positivity, you're looking for the other side of the coin, go listen to Monday's episode. If you don't want to hear this, I guess don't, but that would be weird. Be an everydayer. Okay, let's begin. The first thing that I guess is concerning is, well, JJ McCarthy could suck. If you ask anybody outside of the Vikings circle, if we get out of our own little echo chamber of homerism, and we start asking people, what do you think about the Vikings? Whether they're people who are, in the know, or people who have expertise, or just kind of, your average random Joe. They would be like, well, I don't know if JJ McCarthy is good. He was whatever at Michigan. He wasn't exciting. He was carried by a really good roster to the playoffs twice. And yeah, they won the national championship on the back of a run game that he had nothing to do with, and defense. And, I think one of the responses to the positive episode was like that, like the entire starting roster got drafted, and most of that was on defense, which, that was the strength of Michigan. It was defense, and JJ McCarthy had nothing to do with it. Not to mention, he can't throw the deep ball. He's had 2 knee surgeries, and the team was like pretty motivated to find another quarterback solution already. They were looking at Aaron Rodgers. They were looking at Joe Flacco. They were looking at Daniel Jones and maybe even Sam Darnold. And after one good year, they were ready to jump ship. They sure must be sold on that guy, right? So McCarthy could just suck. He could just be bad. What if he just sucks? And no matter who else is around, if the quarterback sucks, your team's going to suck. He's a second-year quarterback who hasn't played. He also, his knee could give out again, right? 2 surgeries on that knee. The thing about McCarthy is he's always trying to throw the bullet pass. Like if you ever play Madden and you hold the button down every time instead of tapping it or trying to do a touch pass or whatever, you always throw a bullet pass and you'll throw a million interceptions because you're just trying to wing it by everybody's ear hole, and eventually a linebacker is going to pick you off. McCarthy could very well throw a bajillion interceptions to linebackers because he keeps trying to wing it into tight windows that you could get away with in college, but you can't get away with in the pros. There's a reason this dude was the 5th quarterback selected. You know how often the 5th quarterback is the one out of a QB class? It ain't often. He was sloppy seconds. He was nobody's first choice. Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell got stuck with JJ McCarthy because they refused to tank the year prior. They refused to shut things down when Kirk Cousins got hurt, and they ended up with the 11th overall pick and getting saddled with a quarterback they weren't actually that excited about. Now they're saving face. Now they're telling the whole local media to say only the nice, rosy things. They're telling everybody, no, everything is totally hunky-dory, when it very clearly isn't, and every reporter who's sniffed around the situation has thought something was up, has thought they weren't quite sold on McCarthy. They're always hedging their bets. They're always kind of hedging whatever they say and using this nuanced language rather than full-throated support of their young quarterback. They clearly see that this is going to be a disaster, and they're just kind of trying to keep there from being a big panic before they can no longer hide the product on the field. Speaking of hiding the product on the field, the Vikings, for the umpteenth year in a row, are going to have to completely paper over their secondary with other parts of the roster. That secondary is devastated. Harrison Smith, who, by the way, is dealing with a personal health issue nobody knows anything about and hasn't been seen in the facility in weeks. Who knows if he's even still playing at his age? Personal health issue could be a retirement. Who knows what's going on there? And even that, what are you going to get out of Harrison Smith? He's well into his 30s. And probably should have retired 2 years ago. He's absolutely lost his step, and he's not the same player. He's just name recognition. The Vikings are keeping him around out of a sense of emotion rather than prioritizing the product on the field. But he's not even the biggest problem the Vikings have on their secondary. After Byron Murphy, their next best cornerback is Isaiah Rodgers, who was cornerback 3 in Philadelphia and got usurped by a rookie. Straight up lost his job. We're starting that guy. Speaking of starting guys that have lost their job, Jeff Okudah is somebody that they're coming out and telling us with a straight face, oh yeah, we super believe in Jeff Okudah. And the only other cornerback on the roster, not the only other good cornerback, the only other cornerback period on the roster is Dwight McGlothern, a second-year undrafted free agent. And even the safety room, they've straight up replaced a decent player in Cam Bynum with the guy that backed him up last year without really any attempt to improve on that. And Josh Metellus is probably going to have to play nickel all year if Byron Murphy goes down, or if you ever want to do anything else with anybody. Josh Metellus is going to have to just go around like plugging holes in a life raft and hoping not too much air leaks out. This secondary is poised to be a disaster. It is filled with just reclamation projects and we can fix him type stuff. The level of talent in that secondary is paltry, and the only way that it doesn't get exposed game in and game out is if the Vikings can generate an absolute crapload of pressure. With Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, that surely has to be the strategy. And Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave and stuff, if you ignore that those guys are old and injured, which we will get to, and maybe we'll see something out of Dallas Turner someday. I don't know. Is he still even going to start? No, he's going to be a rotational player. Way to spend like 6 draft picks on a rotational guy. But hopefully that can turn into some kind of pass rush that papers over the terrible secondary that they're about to trot out every single week and expect you to believe that they're just going to kind of blitz their way through it and that no quarterback can figure that out. But we've already learned that quarterbacks who can beat the blitz actually require the Vikings to play straight up football, and with them giving up 30 plus points in huge spots, including the playoffs. So this secondary is a huge issue. And the Vikings are putting their eggs in a lot of really, really, really risky baskets. But beyond all that, the players that we should be able to rely on are either aging out, are injured, or just straight up can't play, which goes all the way up to a fundamental problem with the way the Vikings are constructed. And guess what? This is the year it all gets exposed. That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. This is Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. Brought to you by those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. Because there are moments in every game where you do more than just win, you push what is possible. You remind us how much it can mean to go that extra yard and shift into that extra gear. Today's Mazda moment is going to go to one from the preseason because we haven't played any real games yet, and it's going to go to Efton Chisholm, who showed the Vikings. I'm just kidding. I'm going to give it I'll give it to a real Viking. I'll drop the bit for a second. I'll give it to Miles Price, who not only had a great game as a returner, figured something out, but he showed up in the next game and got a big return and actually won that job. It looks like he's going to be the real returner for the Vikings, at least in punts, and one of the kick returners for the Vikings as well. The kick returner is a two-person job nowadays, so there will be two kick returners, I think, from here on out. And that's the kind of thing you have to do when you're an undrafted rookie and you're trying to make the team. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode is also brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery, and the part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. You can make sure you get your ducks in a row right away. Measure twice, cut once, right? Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shopping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Let's move it along with the Locked On Vikings podcast. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. When you're done here, you can go check out patreon.com/LukeBraun NFL for a much more balanced version of some of the latest stories about the Vikings. A look at how the ones played in the preseason. If you didn't watch the preseason or anything, but you want to know how the starters looked, I went over every play of that in a Patreon video. I went over questions like, can Michael Juergens be a center someday? The team seems to insist so. I looked at the film, and also a tier list of alternate uniforms. I just wanted to. I can't really justify that one. It just sounded fun. So go check that out. Patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. Okay, let's get back into it. Enough of your break. All right. Put the safety goggles back on. We're not done. The next thing about the Vikings that genuinely concerns me is about their age and their health. The Vikings are one of the oldest teams in the league. They are headed by, I think they have now 12 players that are over 30 on the team. They are an old team. You might be like, oh, that's veteran experience. Or it's a bunch of washed up dudes. That's all that the Vikings could figure out how to get on their team. But the real problem with that, in addition to the risk of athletic decline, is the risk of injury. And the Vikings are insanely injury prone right now. They have leaned into being injury prone a ton. They basically looked at their trainers and said, you guys have a good reputation, and put the entire weight of the franchise on their shoulders, much of which they cannot control. They cannot stop ligaments from tearing. Last year, the Vikings were pretty lucky with injuries. They did have a couple of significant ones. Christian Darrisaw missed half the season. TJ Hockenson missed half the season from an injury he sustained in 2023. And then they lost a linebacker here or there, or a lineman, for a few plays, or maybe a concussion here or there, or something like that. But there were teams like the Lions that dealt with way more injuries, way more devastation to the roster, and still managed to keep it together. The Vikings got luckier than average, and guess what? Lightning don't strike twice. They will be more injured this year, and they've basically guaranteed that they will be more injured this year. If you look at their acquisitions and just the guys that they are relying on, they have so many key and important players coming off of major injuries. There's Christian Darrisaw, who still might not even be ready for week 1. Yeah, he played in a lot of camp, but we still haven't gotten that report, and it's getting a little weird. We don't know what's up with Harrison Smith as well. Jonathan Allen coming off an injury. Javon Hargrave coming off an injury. Will Fries broke his leg coming off of that. Ryan Kelly's got neck and back problems. Surely that goes away in any 30-year-old. Do you know any 30-year-olds with neck and back problems? Ask them if they still have them. I already know the answer. Aaron Jones, hurt all the time. Justin Jefferson's hurt his hamstring now for the second time in 3 years. Jordan Addison, he's not hurt, but he is suspended because he can't figure out how to get sober and drive. And TJ Hockenson has been dealing with some injury or other basically the entire time he's been in Minnesota, including the major ACL injury, but also injuries in camp. there's like some hip nonsense something. Josh Metellus missed a bunch of camp with injuries. The Vikings have already dealt with a ton of little dings and bruises here and there, but they have leaned so far into players coming off of injuries in a way to like try to moneyball a little extra value out of everything. They like find the most injured player and just sign that guy. You can't just keep getting away with that. Eventually, the Vikings are going to have bunch of injuries hit their roster. And guess what? They can't really afford that. You want to know what scares the heck out of me if you value JJ McCarthy? Putting Justin School back there. Justin School got absolutely lit up by dudes who did not ultimately make the 53-man roster for pretty much all of camp. And he's the guy going in. If Christian Darrisaw isn't ready for week 1, good luck with Montez Sweat. Good luck the next one. Good luck with a bunch of first-round rookies next year or the next week against Atlanta. Good luck with Trey Hendrickson. I mean, it's like a murderer's row constantly for Justin School, and we better get Christian Darrisaw back, and he better be 100%, by the way, because surely he will get healthier as the season wears on. That's usually how that works, right? But it's also that there is this critical age problem. Eventually, you hit a critical mass of old guys where you're no longer the like experienced team. You're just slow. Because of an injury to Jalen Naylor, here's another injury, by the way, that ended up maybe not even bearing out. He might be ready for week 1 anyways, and they might have just pissed away a draft pick on a reunion with Adam Thielen, because apparently they only have 10 phone numbers in their phone, and all we can ever think about is guys that we already knew about before. So I guess let's bring back Adam Thielen and give the Panthers a 4th-round pick for that, and hope this isn't Chris Herndonning again, because he is 35, on the decline. And oh, by the way, coming off an injury last year. He missed a bunch of last year with an injury. So add him to the pile. But the reason the Vikings are as old as they are is because they don't have any young talent because Kwesi can't draft. 2022 draft class was terrible. 2023 class was Jordan Addison and then terrible. The 2024 draft class looks like it's JJ McCarthy and Dallas Turner, and we still can't see any of those guys because they either can't stay healthy because we're an injured team, or they're Dallas Turner and they can't crack the rotation. And Patrick Jones started over him for most of the season. So surely we're just going to trust that all those guys are going to be healthy and take a step forward. No, the Vikings can't get young talent in their building, so they have to rely on getting old and expensive talent in the building. Eventually you reach a critical mass where you cannot keep plugging holes that are supposed to be plugged by young players stepping up. If young players can't start stepping up, the Vikings will only have to pay for more and more expensive veterans, and the cap situation will crumble before they can even wiggle out of it by 2030 when the money all changes. So now the Vikings have built an absolute Super Bowl contender if you live in 2021, but these guys are not going to be able to give you what their name value and recognition is supposed to get you. Adam Thielen's not giving you 8 100-yard games in a row and an 18 touchdown season. You are not getting the 2020 Ryan Kelly season out of Ryan Kelly. You are not getting prime Pro Bowl perennial All-Pro Jonathan Allen out of this anymore. None of these guys are the guys that they used to be. We have all kinds of exciting names, but can they actually play still? Even if there is evidence that some of those guys can still play good football, will they be able to next year? The year that you don't get any younger. Time only moves in one direction, and so does your age. You are the youngest that you will ever be now. That means you are the closest to, or the furthest away from death that you will ever be right now, today, and the Vikings are no closer to winning a Super Bowl. Chew on that. Look, the Vikings are not going to get any younger. And if their draft picks from the last couple of years don't shape up, they're not going to get any younger in the future either. They will continue to be an old, expensive team. And the only way to even construct a roster that fits under the salary cap when every single one of your positions has to be held by veterans because you can't draft worth a damn is to moneyball it. To find guys that are maybe cheaper for a reason that could potentially not bear out. Like they're coming off of an injury and you just kind of have to hope it'll be fine. Or there's a character issue, and you just kind of have to hope it'll be fine. Or they had a down year last year, and you have to kind of hope it'll be fine. Or they're old, and you just kind of have to hope it'll be fine. You just have to look at every player in the free agent market and look at which guy's problems you can most easily ignore, stick your fingers in your ears, and go la, 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 la. That's the way the Vikings are going to have to operate under Kwesi. They're going to have to just moneyball every position until they can figure out how to determine who the good college players are, like every other damn team does in the entire NFL. And I am not done talking about the guys up top, and I'm not done talking about the guys around the Vikings as well, because the division is insane and the coaching's not prepared for it. That'll be next on Locked On Vikings. This episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and boy, you can feel it. You can smell it in the air, the crisp fall air, the leather, pig skin. The season is kicking off tomorrow, Eagles and Cowboys. So now's the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and so should you, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. If you want more ways to play, try the brand new Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. And if you want to play instantly with friends, try the new Draft with Friends mode. Or if you prefer the classics, get a crew together, go to head-to-head in a private league, or if you don't have a crew, that's no problem, join a public league. It's the easiest way to play. Get your drafts in. You still have time before things kick off, and even after things kick off, you can totally still have your draft. It kind of makes things interesting, right? Because now you know what people scored in week one, and maybe that affects if you draft them or not, right? Whatever you want to do. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. They're making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer here on the eve of the NFL season. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. For example, if you wanted to take the Chicago Bears money line, it's minus 106 against the Vikings in their season opener. If you don't believe in them, because you're this deep in the show and you haven't gotten mad at me yet, you can check it out at FanDuel. If you are ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Moving along with the Locked On Vikings podcast, the problems with the Vikings go beyond just the issues this year, the unknown at quarterback, the patchwork secondary, the quote-unquote fixed offensive and defensive lines by just throwing in whoever was cheap because their bodies don't work anymore. It goes straight to the top. It goes to the way the Vikings have constructed their team, the way that their coaching strategy has been put together, and the way that they are now, for the third year in a row, running back something that did not work when it mattered most. The coaching in the Vikings, of the Minnesota Vikings, has completely been solved. Kevin O'Connell can't figure out how to put a run game together. This has been a bugaboo for him since he got here. That's probably why he only runs it like 10 times a game, and he has to make everybody, whether you're Nick Mullins or Sam Darnold, you got to pass 50 times a game because they can't run the ball because Kevin O'Connell doesn't know how to install a diverse run game. You want to look at the Lions, and Ben Johnson, who's now still in the division, they installed a diverse run game. They got a bunch of veterans on the O-line that knew what they were doing, that knew what it meant if you had to say, okay, you pull, you block this guy, this is power, we're going to run zone this way with this kind of blocking scheme. They understood what that was, and you could install it all quickly and get a whole bunch of different run plays in. Kevin O'Connell has basically had zone left with motion, zone right with motion. Those are the plays that Kevin O'Connell likes to play. Do they mix in power and counter every once in a while? Yeah, I guess. They're not very good at it, and they don't do it enough to actually make it an identity that the team can be proud of. No, they're going to have Aaron Jones sitting. Look at me, Freudian slipping, the quarterback they should have signed this offseason. No, they're going to have Aaron Jones sitting in the backfield, taking fake handoffs because they're going to run play action as much as they actually run, as if that's going to fool anybody, because we all know the Vikings are going to pass it 50 times a game, whether they're ahead or behind. You want to know why the Vikings have been in so many close games over the past few years? Because they can't salt away a lead with the run game. They have to pass it. They have to play ultra aggressive, even if they have a lead. And that means that they can't run the clock out the way that they want to do, and that they have to take extra high risks when they probably shouldn't be, which can let a team that's been totally beaten back in the game. Happened with the Packers and Bears 3 different games last year, and the Vikings almost lost every single one of them with that. People have figured out how to beat Kevin O'Connell. All right. It's not about figuring out the secret sauce to their offense, finding the key look that they just don't have an answer to. You just have to hang around and be opportunistic, because eventually the Vikings will make a mistake because they cannot execute the safe stuff. Everything has to be a shot play. Everything has to be aggressive. Everything has to be high risk, high reward. There are no easy answers. It is constantly on hard mode. And if you want to talk about coaching being solved, look at the other side of the ball. Brian Flores' scheme has been figured out. It's been figured out for a couple of years. Oh, you're going to blitz me a whole bunch. Well, if you have good blitz beaters, you can beat Brian Flores. If you have a quarterback that can beat the blitz, you can beat Brian Flores. Do you think there's no NFL quarterbacks that can handle a blitz? Especially once you get into January? Why do you think they fall apart at the end of the season every year? Because that's when the good teams come. That's when the big games happen, where everybody has to actually put it together and figure out how to beat a blitz. If you can't beat a blitz, you aren't going to matter in January. And guess what? The Vikings don't matter in January because the Rams could beat a blitz. And the last time they were in the playoffs, it was Ed Donatel. We don't have to talk about it. Ben Johnson has always been able to beat the blitz, and the Lions have been able to beat the blitz. And well, guess what? Now that horrible bugaboo has mutated and like divided like cell mitosis and is now in two different places in the division. And that is the last point that I'm going to make. Even if all of this stuff that I have said turns out to be completely and totally unfounded and untrue, which I surely hope it is, because honestly, 60% of this show has been a bit that I don't actually mean. But let's pretend that it isn't, and I'm not doing a Skip Bayless thing right now. Even if the Vikings turn out to be a pretty good team, the division is completely insane. It's totally and wholly stacked. The Vikings have the consensus worst QB in the division. I mean, that's just the way everybody feels. Everybody loves Jared Goff and Jordan Love, and they're making Pro Bowls, and Caleb Williams was in the same draft as JJ McCarthy and drafted above him. Everybody has higher expectations for Caleb Williams. Vikings have the worst QB in the division. They have been lapped value-wise, draft-wise, by all of the other teams of the division. The other teams have been running circles around the way the Vikings have put their team together, because the other teams actually understand the value in a way that Kwesi seems to never get his head wrapped around. He basically bleeds value every time he makes a trade, and he's a Wall Street trader, so he has to be trading constantly. But look around the division. The Lions are a juggernaut. The Packers are a Super Bowl contender, and the Bears are the hottest up-and-comer dark horse Super Bowl pick for like every single pundit. This is an absolute nightmare of a division. So even if you are an okay team, you could still end up 7-10 just by virtue of being up against somebody tough every other damn week because of this division. Not to mention that to play the entire NFC North, they got the Eagles coming to town. They got the Ravens coming to town. The Bengals are coming to town. The Commanders are coming to town. They have the biggest gauntlet of a home schedule ever. You better hope that home field advantage works and teams don't get sick of watching them lose by Thanksgiving, because they're going to need all that noise to not go 1-7 at home like they did in 2020. It's a really tough year for the Vikings to be sort of in this transition mode and asking you to believe in all of these question marks. And really, all I've brought up today is question marks. I haven't brought up things that we know are bad. There's not a ton of that anywhere in the league. You can't really ever really know. But there's a lot of things that we can sort of scratch our heads about. Are we sure Isaiah Rodgers is the guy? Are we sure JJ McCarthy should be the future of this franchise? Are we sure everybody's going to stay healthy? Are we sure everybody is as good of an athlete as they were last year because they're well into their 30s? Are we sure? I don't know if we can be. We'll be back to serious podcasting tomorrow. It's crossover Thursday, me and Lauren. So hate watching Bears fans. Once you clean yourselves up after listening to this, I will be talking to Lauren on the crossover episode. So I look forward to getting you guys to listen to me for the last time, because I know you're all going to disappear after the Monday Night Football episode. I will see you all, whether win or lose. You're going to leave like one comment and then you're not going to be part of this anymore. So it's been nice having you. I will see you all tomorrow. And as always, Skull.